Welcome to Real Estate Dads. We have here Jessica McLeod. Jessica has been a fantastic friend of mine for multiple years. And the reason we're having her on is because when we talk about content for dads is what we're making, we also get involved in the future of the world. And one thing that we have found recently is that the dating world has changed. We don't just want to encourage dads. We want there to be more dads. We want there to be dads who are eagerly dadding, becoming dads, and are in it 2 feet, jumping all the way in. But what we're finding is that the dating world is a little caustic. So Jessica, Jessica, modern day woman, an individual who has good insights on this. So we wanted to have a conversation with her about some of these challenges that people are seeing in the dating world.
Yeah, it's rough out there.
It is rough.
But I'm not out there anymore.
I'm so glad.
I know, I'm finally dating someone.
Yeah. So, okay. And, when we were talking about this last week, my comment was that I know several men. I was just at this real estate conference, a week ago with a lot of successful guys. I mean, there's a lot of guys there who actually made significant money, and they are telling me how difficult it is to find a woman who is kind of what I'll describe as in it to win it. And what it seems like, and I know women personally who seems like this is kind of the schedule, but it's Cabo in October, and then it's Mykonos sometime in the spring, and then it's some kind of other Greek island, later that summer, Ibiza or something else. And it's not necessarily that these women are, I'll call it directly sugar babies, but that they're going on these girls' trips, and that the kind of, I'll call it future date for some of these trips is a reason why they won't jump into a relationship early. Like if they're dating someone, it might be like, oh, we're dating, but I can't be that. I can't make it. I can't give it the title of the boyfriend girlfriend. Because we got Cabo in a month. So, and you had some comments on this. So
I did. It's so crazy. I feel like for the longest time when I was dating, I knew like my side of the equation, and I was hearing what the other women were saying around me, but I feel like all of a sudden we're finally hearing from the men and like their struggles. And I have some really solid guy friends now, and just my current partner, and he was telling me about some of the struggles that he went through, and I feel like my mind kind of opened up a little bit more to the plight on the other side. And it was eye-opening, but also I started like looking around me, at my girlfriends and the ones that are still single. And I was like, for someone that I really care about, like my partner's younger brother is single right now. I was like, I do not have one girlfriend that I would recommend for him to date. And like, that's shocking. I think like there's not one that I would wish on my worst enemy.
So within these women that you're commenting where you wouldn't set them up, are these women available and do they want relationships but aren't getting into them? Or is it the situation where they're like, or you just wouldn't recommend them, or are they not even wanting to be in a relationship?
I mean, it's like, it's like they are speaking in a way that that's something that they desire. But the reality of the circumstances that are surrounding them like aren't necessarily reflecting that. So, with like all the traveling and like the whole like influencer culture kind of like influencing how they live their lives to like be a certain persona, it's like there's no space for it. So it doesn't seem like they're living in a way that is actually the truth, that they desire like partnership in that way.
So is it do they recognize this? So you're saying they're saying one thing,
I don't think
but their
so,
lifestyle just isn't matching that?
So I hate saying they, because I feel like I'm like accusing. I think there is an epidemic proportion of single people out there right now, and I can say I was included in that before I started doing like the work on myself, where intimacy was terrifying, and we like find ways to relate, and like we start talking about like being like a sugar baby, that's like it's a comfortable way to be in relationship with someone without having to, have intimacy be the thing that brings you together.
And within the sugar baby context, the individuals who I was talking about, I don't really think that the ones that I know personally are not directly like a sugar baby, but I would argue that when they're on some of these trips, they're not paying for much.
Yeah.
So they're, and I don't know, and I as a male, I don't know quite what that entails on their side.
Yeah.
But I just know that, some of these places are very expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When were you last dating?
God,
how many years ago?
Thank God. It was like 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And since then, there were some like apps and stuff then.
Oh, there were tons of apps. And, and the apps were, it's funny, I guess in some ways, I talk with somebody about this, but the apps, they were fun. Like I remember them being kind of fun. It was dating was kind of an adventure. You didn't know who you were going to meet. You didn't know who you were going to kind of, have a date with that was maybe going to go well or maybe going to go bad, but it was a story and it was something to do. And it was, you could go and talk with your guy friends about, oh, so I met this girl and what happened? Oh, she was like this, or whatever it was. There'll always be this kind of, I'll call it, is an activity around, that lifestyle.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, there were definitely apps. And I'm glad I don't need to worry about them anymore.
I know, same.
Yeah.
But still, that even like 8 years ago, I feel like social media hadn't totally hijacked the way that we relate to each other. I feel like we've kind of strayed from authenticity in like a pretty intense way, having a sort of facade up of how I exist as a woman, and like generating content on it constantly, because the machine is the way that it is, has somehow like gotten pulled into like the dating apps and everything.
Yeah, it's like dating by algorithm.
Yes, crazy. Yeah. What apps were around when you were dating?
Tinder was the first on the apps, and then Hinge, and then Bumble. And there was The League.
The League. No was, Raya, then?
I don't know what that is.
Okay.
So I'm glad that I don't. Yeah. And when I hear about the stats on how hard, the matching qualifications are on those, luckily I did decent. I always had matches. I was always, I was still able to, use the apps, accordingly. Because I hear a lot of stories about how it's really hard even to match. And I remember then when the women I would talk to, they would be like, yeah, I've got like a billion matches in my inbox. Yeah. And they couldn't even kind of sort through them.
Yeah. I could have gone out on a date like every night if I wanted to.
I'm sure.
While I was on it. I had like, I think at one point, I remember it was on Hinge. I just stopped. I like took a break for like a month and a half. And I remember getting back on and I had like 300 missed like messages.
Yeah.
Because you have to like accept their message to have them come into the inbox or whatever. And
on Hinge. That's right.
Hinge.
Was Hinge the one where the female's supposed to message first? Or is that Bumble?
No. I think that's Bumble. I'm pretty sure that's Bumble. Yeah.
All right. So how did you even sort through them, or did you not?
I would just lose my mind. Like I would do it for a while. I remember I let my little sister take over for a little bit because I was like, she's actually willing to like take the time and like look deeper. But I just remember going through it and just being so disappointed.
Disappointed even in the conversations? This is people over text. And you were disappointed like just because they were not engaging?
I just had I had like so many walls up at that point. So just being in the judgment of kind of what was out there, I think.
Kind of hard to break through.
I was sad when I was on it.
That's a hard, with the apps, especially when they're just so photo-centric, because you don't really get much. You get some photos.
Yeah.
And then you kind of even got to choose those accordingly, suit pick on a boat, pick with the dog, whatever you can get that are, hey, I'm going to try to create some kind of common ground with the viewer.
Yeah. I just feel like there's no context of who that person is within their community. So like before all this stuff, we would date like in high school, whatever. you would know someone's family and you would know how they were with their friends, and they would
where you had to meet them somewhere.
There was some sort of context around that person, right? But on the apps, it's just like a person existing in space. You don't know how they treat their friends, or if anyone even likes them, or a history of who they've dated, or like anything.
When you say that, I mean, because if you're meeting someone out, you had to have met them in some capacity through a friend,
or have someone that knows them that can at least say, hey, that's a good, that person's okay.
It sounds pretty brutal these days.
Yeah.
And I feel like the tide has turned a little bit, because I feel like it was men who for a long time got kind of the view of having the Peter Pan syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, they just want to go out and, have fun.
Yeah.
And I feel like now it's like the Princess Pan.
Totally. Yeah.
And, and
I think both are still happening, but
I'm sure.
I'm having this awareness, and I feel like it is becoming more like seen. Is the side that's happening with like...
Well, definitely catches more social media.
Yeah.
Not many social media clips are being made about how guys are being sugar babies or anything like this. There's a whole podcast for this for women. Right now. So that whole, I'll call it, Call Her Daddy, or any of those, kind of shows. I mean, it's putting a lot of that kind of, I don't know if I want to call it lifestyle, searching for guys with the most money. Gosh, who I'm trying to think of the other social media host, Sarah Franklin.
Maybe.
I'm not sure. I can think of a couple who I can picture visually, but that's it. But it seems relatively brutal. And from what I've also heard about a lot of these women's kind of take is that like, oh, well, I'll just stay single. Like I just like, that's kind of like, it's like either I want this or I'm not ever going to settle.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. But I went through that as well. I think I did 2 years, I was almost 2 years of being like completely like not dating, not on the apps or anything. I took 2 years off, but it wasn't, I think I had been just kind of in like the tumble dryer of like, I had gone on some pretty bad dates.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh my gosh, like there has to be a different way. Like I have to get out of this system. And I think that pushed me into taking more accountability for like my own patterns. It actually pushed me into like a real spiritual journey of like figuring out why I was attracting the things that I was into my life.
And within the potential male suitors, I'll call them, did they want something serious and were you not, or was it just kind of a constant mismatch?
I had a bunch of like, I actually had like some pretty good dates with guys that were interested in, I think it's because I'm older, like I'm over 30. And so there were some like pretty good guys. They weren't for me. And then I had some that were like, one of the last dates that I went on, the guy was like ready to marry me on like the first date. And I thought that was pretty alarming because I've been married and divorced. And I was just like worried for him. Like, bro, you don't know me. You need to look a little bit deeper. Like, take your time, But no, I think there were sweet guys out there. I don't know if that's just my age range or whatever, but there were definitely like more often than not, there were people that seemed like they were looking for something like more serious.
The more, the older I've gotten, the more I have felt like the timing of when you meet certain people is a massive piece to it.
It's super important.
And I didn't used to think that. I used to kind of have this, oh, well, if you met the right person, then you would be ready.
Right.
And now I kind of look back and I go, I'm not totally sure.
Yeah.
I mean, or maybe on a percentage chance, there's a possibility of that, but it's just so low.
Yeah.
Because for me, I had spent about a month alone in New Zealand. Right out, actually, I just met my future wife, and then I went on this trip that I'd already planned, and I was by myself for about a month. I was in a van. I was in a van traveling around New Zealand, and I was stopping at different locations, and it was a fantastic experience. But I was alone, and I was alone for really about a month. And, I would meet people, having dinner or whatever, not having dinner with them. I mean, I just got dinner. I would talk to, whoever the server was. But that was really about it. Other than that, I was really by myself, just my own thoughts. And I just got back from that trip and I was like, this is a great relationship. Things are going good. I don't need to throw any roadblocks in front of it. And things have been fantastic ever since. Now we have a couple kids, and I know it's really great. But I look at that and I go, is that an alone story, or is that a solitary story, or is there, is finding someone something you can't have just a commitment to and go, hey, I'm just going to make it work, and that's going to be that. And I don't know how much of that happens in society right now, where
I'm having this realization while you're talking. I feel like for the men, it's probably until it takes them a little while to feel like they're ready, because you're thinking about being a provider, all of those things.
I would agree with that.
And so 30 rolls around, you start really seriously thinking about it.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Things start falling into place. Hopefully you've had enough time at that point to figure your shit out, right?
Yeah.
I feel like women are seemingly ready earlier than that. And by the time they're 30, they're pretty wounded.
You know what? I just read this.
So you're getting a lot of angry women.
Gosh, I just read this recently.
And men that are finally ready. So there's a little bit of a...
It's a meeting. It's a meeting of the two. Gosh, I just read this week, and I thought this was really fascinating. But women are born on the top of a mountain. Men are born in the valleys around it. A man is judged by how high he climbs. A woman is judged on how far she falls. Men have much to gain. Women have much to lose. Masculinity is built and femininity is preserved.
Totally.
And, and I read this and I was like, wow. And for me reading this, I read it and I can take it in, but the reality is what I'm thinking of is, hey, how am I going to be leading my kids?
Totally. Yeah.
What am I going to be telling my kids in regards to how to handle the dating world in whatever state it is someday? And, and men really are judged on their work. And for women,
I think men judge themselves on their work as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. They're judged. We judge ourselves on our accomplishments and how hard we've worked, how much we've achieved. Yeah, very, very much. And, and within those two, we talk about the top of the mountain for the woman and the man is climbing. There is this kind of this meeting at some point in the middle of those. And, and when you're a male in your early 20s and you're seeing these absolutely gorgeous women and they're dating the other guy, maybe I'll just say it as that, the guy's got more money, the guy's got this, the guy's got that, or whatever it is. And then you get to an older phase and you realize that you're later in that position, where you're dating, when I was in my 30s, that was when, dating got easier. It got easier. And then I also realized I didn't want to be in that anymore. I wanted to really get married and have kids and, do the whole next phase of life.
Dating with that mindset, which is what I ended up in. I think when I first started dating, it was just for the experience of dating, because I was coming out of being married. So I was just dating and dating and dating, which I put guys through hell because I wasn't looking for partnership. But then it was 3 years after that when I started really looking for partnership. I was dating in a completely different way. So I wasn't hooking up with people. I was trying to have deep conversations as much as I could, and really get a sense of who that person was and if we were compatible. And it was different. It was a different energy. And I was very aware of that I wanted to honor the person in front of me. There was way more respect involved because I was looking for a partner. I wasn't looking to use someone.
Sure. There wasn't a placeholder or a bench warmer kind of position.
And there was no, I didn't have a roster. I was trying to clear. I was I wanted it to be an open runway for the right person to come in. So I wasn't texting people if there wasn't a real connection there. And I wasn't, I was completely anti hookup culture and all that. Because I was I didn't want that energetic residue of anyone getting in the way of my man when I met him.
Yeah. And also that's something that once you actually have that individual, he also knows that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted it to be clear.
Yeah.
But I had to do so much work to get to that place. It's so much easier to have a fallback plan and 50 people that you're talking to and to never, but I'm then
it's
the right person.
It's lonely being single.
And I've had this conversation with my man now, and we were talking about even my Instagram a year ago was not giving the signal that I wanted partnership. Like, I went through and I like deleted all the swimsuit photos and everything. Like, I took it very seriously. I was like, I want every area of my life to be reflecting that, like, I'm not looking for a cheap hookup. Like, I am looking for partnership. I would like to have kids. I want to get married. And so I'm taking full accountability for myself and how the energy that I'm putting out in the world, and everything needs to be resonating, wife material or whatever.
But also, I mean, when you're talking about, your singleness right now, how old were you when you first got married?
I was 26.
26. So actually still pretty.
Yeah, I was young.
Very young.
Yeah. I think that's really young.
It's very young. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you're in Texas. It's like,
I was born in Austin. So.
Were you?
Yeah.
So, and within your own, I'll call it, early dating, from when you were a teenager into, getting married, how was that for you? And was it the same or different as it was, now?
It's totally different. Yeah. It was always someone that I knew through some community that I was in, whether it was like school or sports or church or a friend of a friend. And so there was like some context for who that person was. I feel like Hinge was just like, so I was on Raya. So if you don't know what Raya is, it's like the fancy exclusive dating app that you have to get like approval to be on. It's a bunch of like, there's tons of influencers on there, and like people that have like made a name for themselves in like the field that they're in or whatever, like they own a business or something. Even on Raya, which there's like this crazy approval process to get into, like I still had some really scary dates.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me. Not actually.
Yeah.
And when you say that, I mean, I get it from what they're calling through, but I would imagine you still have. It's not like a check or a safety check on who the individuals are. It's just a check that they've got following.
Yeah. And I think that's what kind of like ended the whole dating app thing for me. I was just like, it's weird to meet up with someone that you don't know at a place that whatever.
Yeah, I remember in college, there was a girl, we were young, and she was meeting guys online, and I remember how many people at the school thought that was just so weird.
Yeah, I think something happened where like the risks involved got separated, where like it's all fun and games, but it actually is like you're meeting a stranger.
Well, it was such a the apps created such a better path for finding an individual who was available. Because if you're going to an event and you go to a party and there's 100 people there, I mean, you could spend the whole night trying to find the 4 single individuals at the whole party.
Yeah.
And where instead you're able to go online and you can find 100.
Yeah, totally.
Not even 100.
I feel like that's part of the process.
It is. I remember I got a woman's number in San Francisco. She said she had never had anyone ask for her number.
Really?
Ever. She had never had anyone ask.
That's how my boyfriend came up to me out in the wild and asked for my number.
I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. I was just like, you're joking. And she was like, no, never has.
So wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so appreciative of the men's side of things. I'm like, I could never like go up to someone that you're not sure of if they're single or not and just ask, because it's been me sometimes on the other side of it. Like, what are you doing? Like leave me alone. Like, creep.
Why are you talking to me? Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I feel like maybe because now I'm over 30, when someone does that, I'm like, thank you so much. I'm not single anymore. Thank you so much. I'm so flattered.
Just the flattery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I gave someone a hug the last time they asked, and I wasn't available at that point, but I was just like, thanks. Give a hug. I don't know. Maybe something happens.
But what you're saying is right though. I mean, because when you're out and you have to see someone and you have to walk across the room and engage in a conversation,
like you're brave.
And
I think it's really brave.
Yeah, it takes actually, I mean, for me, for my generation, it was just what you did.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the apps were kind of a change to that. So, this comment story I'm mentioning, I mean, it was definitely something where, I felt like I was like, I didn't know things had changed this much.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So it's really fascinating.
I know. I feel like that's part of like the, whatever you call it, the gauntlet or whatever that men have to go through, is like taking that brave
risk.
step
Yeah.
out in the
Yeah.
wild
If it's
and going up and
if it's easy, it's not
putting
worth it.
themselves out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that's part of the process. It's beautiful, and it's kind of sad that it's sort of being stripped away. I don't know. I
mean, I feel like
old...
it's changed now.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like now it's, I guess I don't know. I mean, is it? I don't know what the process is for online romancing of women.
Yeah.
Through photos and trips. Like, I just don't have an experience with that.
Yeah.